You know what company it is?
Swiss Miss?
Yes. Do you know what's special about it?
No marshmallows.
No added sugar.
What?
Mm-hmm.
How did they do this?
I don't know.
For real?
Yeah. So it's like no added sugar, which means there's also no like stupid sugars, like the aspartame or whatever.
Really?
Yeah. It's only got 4 grams, but it goes a long way. It's super flavorful.
There's got to be
way better
something
for
in
you.
here.
Cocaine, maybe.
Oh, I knew it.
That's what the hot cocoa stands
Those
for.
name brands will get you every time.
Especially the ones with Coke in the name.
Yeah, we should have known. Hot cocoa?
Oh man, Coke.
Oh.
Oh my word. How foolish we all are. Hey, what do you want to talk about?
What do you think Guam's preparing us for?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that at all.
Well, obviously it's whatever the Lord's using Guam to prepare us for, but I think that understanding that He's the one doing the preparing, Guam's the tool. What do you think it is?
So I'll start generally. I think it has been a huge ministry opportunity. Being able to minister in that vein, being ministered to. Not that I have never been at a church where there was good gospel preaching, Jesus loving people, but I think this being the first place I've ever lived on my own. I mean, I'm married, but like essentially moving away from family, having to make decisions on my own. You know, it's the first place that I've had the opportunity to like grow spiritually. I think this is the closest I've been to God, just because of how many people I can talk to and relate to, and He's put a lot of people in my walk that I can, grow with.
Wow. I didn't think about, the first thing, like being out here away from family for the first time for you, because you've been out here with family, and you've been in Hawaii with family, but this is the first spot where you and Mackenzie have really spent your married years.
Yeah.
Like you've been stateside together a little bit, but this is where you've really grown as a little family unit of your own.
Mm-hmm.
Well, for me, the church element is one of the things that stands out, because I didn't really come to understand what it meant to be in a local church until I was in my final semester of college at Faith. And when I was in my last semester there, I was still working security on Wednesdays and Sundays because I was like, hey, I know you guys want to go to church. You're already plugged in. I'm not plugged in anywhere. I'll watch online. I'll just do Wednesdays and Sundays. And that was in my first semester. But then in my final semester there, I was like really being grown in my understanding of why the Lord has set up the church the way that He has. And I started to really want to plug into a church better. And I came to understand what it meant to actually go to church and all that stuff. And then I came out here, and so out here was the first time where I got to go to church understanding what it was for. But also at the same time, I'm working at church, which is a weird thing. But that's probably my comparable first, because I'm not married. So it was like, I lived alone in Iowa, or lived away from my family in Iowa. But here is the first time where I really understood, oh, my life should be centered around this, focused on this. And this is why God made it. And that took a little bit of time even out here to see.
I think that's kind of the that transition where you go from being kind of in the family, and you just kind of do things with your family, and you may have a better understanding, but you don't really practice it or think about it until you're actually forced to, and being alone away from family forces you to make those decisions and
What
like
kind of
understand
practice do you
those.
mean? Like better practices? Ooh! Excuse me. What kind of
You
better
leave that in?
practices are you talking about? Yeah, I guess so.
Better practices?
Supernatural.
Just in the practice of going to church or being a part of a community, like,
Oh, like better living.
I suppose so. I guess that's where I was going with that.
Hmm.
But even just in saying that, I think about how coming here, I was not prepared to be in a community. Like, Mackenzie was very like, Logan, we need to go. This was before we had community groups here. And there was Jake's community group thing that he was doing every other week.
Yeah.
With the crosses.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started doing that. But like for the longest time, I was just like, Mackenzie, I don't want to go. For whatever selfish, devilish reason. Because it was very much just like, I would just rather not. And I don't know if it was like a social thing where I was just like, I just don't want to be around people. I don't think that's true. I think my mind was convinced of something along those lines, but it was always a blessing. And so I think through that, I grew a lot in understanding the necessity for, consistent community, making effort to be with people. And yeah.
Well, what was the plan before that? Before you came to realize community was an important thing in that way that you experienced it, kind of that little lesson of wanting to be home, wanting to spend some time by yourself, but then getting plugged into it because your wife was encouraging you to, and then you realize, oh, this is a better thing to do. Because I feel like I naturally kind of been the same way. I'm wanting to spend time by myself. I'm wanting to kind of hang out when it's opportune. But what's our plan if we get to do that with all of our time? Does that make sense? It's like,
Yeah,
if you get all the time, yeah, now what?
Because I know now I don't use it well. This is probably the best used time recently
Yeah?
of my own free time. But I just think like every day I typically will find myself scrolling or
Oh, yeah.
like that's what my free time is for. And I have a feeling back then it was the same. So it's like, what was I really avoiding by not going out? Maybe nothing, honestly. Probably nothing. I think it was really just either like, I think it was just like a selfish unwillingness, or like I want it my way, or something. I don't know. Maybe not like that completely. I just know that it was
I just want to
not
be
good.
comfortable. It's hard to drum up some of that initiative to do anything outside if you've got time to spare, just like spend it by yourself. Because so much of the other stuff is like a requirement. You've got to do this, and it pulls you away from the house or home or comfort oftentimes. And then in those down moments, you're like, okay, time to be here. But I think that recourse of thinking time to be alone or time to be just by myself can be reframed around a better understanding of how the Lord has genuinely made us to thrive inside of community and serve one another, even in our spare moments. It's an interesting concept that our recharging or our resting or even our need to like decompress and all that stuff is by ourself exclusively, or like that is a need that we have. But then we think of community as the thing that we add in and supplement, or that we need to take like doses of. I understand why it happens, but I wish that it wasn't so natural for me to default to, oh, I need now time by myself. I wish that I defaulted to, okay, now I need to invest in other people or spend time with these people that I haven't been around for some amount of time. it's not the base level, you know? Like if I'm falling through the floors, like the base level, like I'm tired, I need to rest or whatever, it's like by myself, alone, nobody. And I could do that for a long time. I wish it wasn't that way.
I think I convinced myself that I can do that for a long time, and then I go like a day, and then I just feel awful and
Really?
awkward and weird. Yeah, like if there was I don't know if it happens so much now, but then again, we did a lot this weekend with people, so I suppose it wasn't as dramatic. But there are times where, like, if I go a day without being around people, then I'm super awkward. So like on a Saturday,
You
if
mean
I'm
like
not seeing people,
personally awkward, like when you reconnect with people?
or even just being around people, I just struggle more. Like specifically with church.
Yeah.
Like let's say like if we don't see anyone Saturday and then you come to church the next day, it's like I almost forget how to like interact with people.
Oh, dude, I know what you mean. And I think about it all the time. Yesterday I was thinking about it. Just like, what's the problem of me being able to connect with people naturally? I wish I could just hold a conversation that wasn't me like smiling and thinking, am I smiling for too long? Am I like holding this weird face? Like, I was thinking about it sitting, I was sitting on the back pew with Kaylee talking to my buddy Dale. And he walked up and I was like, it's one of the most fun, natural friendships that's kind of just come out of a dude showing up to church in a long time. And he's such a cool cat. And I was just like chatting with him thinking, like, why am I not able to feel natural right now? Like I feel very comfortable around the guy. He's super friendly and nice and we've got things in common and like it's a great little time that we have together, but I was just like, why can't I plug in? And I'd even been with people the day before, so I don't really know what it was, but
I mean, I felt it yesterday in community groups. Like there's people that I can relate with, and I just was like, had no desire to communicate with them.
yeah.
I don't know. It's like, and like there, but selfishly, there's that desire. There's also the part of me that's like, I have to try to like talk to these people. Like I can't just go without saying something to them, you know, or I can't. It would be unhelpful if I was not, you know, talking to people.
Well, I know that that's one of the things that the Lord's using Guam to develop me in is to genuinely love people better, because like the whole purpose statement of the ministry is helping people develop a heart for God.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so that's what's going to happen to me also. I'm going to develop a heart for God. And we have to love his people if we're going to love him. You know, if you love me, feed my sheep. Right? If you love
Sounds correct. I mean, there's other passages. There's like, you know,
my sheep.
the greatest commandment is to love God with all
What's
your
the
heart.
verse I'm thinking about? If you love me,
Mind, strength.
well, I'm going to have to look it up now. This is what happens when we wake up early. But I know for a fact, it's like the Lord tells us in Scripture that if we are going to love him, we cannot sequester alone to ourselves and expect, because I love you, I'm going to get that book.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. We cannot expect to love God fully in a life of self-service. It just doesn't work that way. And I'm learning like kind of the hard parts about just genuinely loving and serving other people is just it's uncomfortable, at least at the start. It is not natural. At least for me, it is very unnatural to just think about how I can spend time around other people, serve them, care for them, people that I don't want to be around, all this stuff. And it is a genuine, even when I say that, I kind of cringe a little bit because I'm like, I just don't want some of that stuff. But I'm asking the Lord to help me want it. And that's something that has been clear from what the Lord's shown me out here. Being a part of the church and working in the ministry, it's just, I know that's going to go with me no matter where the Lord takes me. That's something that being built here is going to go out wherever I go. And I pray that the Lord keeps developing that. And allows that to really sprout into something beautiful. The Lord does amazing things with just pretty regular people.
I was just thinking about that. I don't know what it was. I think it was during the service yesterday. But it struck me that as a kid or as a teenager, I used to think like, oh, it'd be so awesome if this famous person got saved.
Oh
then,
yeah,
like, all
I
these
still
people-
think that.
Yeah.
And I pray for celebrities sometimes because it's like, I feel like I know the person or whatever.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
You ought to pray for every soul that you can think of. But it was just like, that's so against the Bible to think that like that's what we need.
Like what that we need?
That we need famous people to come to the Lord, to lead people to Christ.
Oh,
God can use
sure.
that,
Yeah.
but He needs every walk of life. He
Absolutely.
needs every type of person,
But I've thought before, like, what if? And I don't think it's a bad thing to pray for like a strategic person to come to know the Lord too, because if the Lord, like you said, like everybody needs to come to know the Lord, even the celebrities, and they can oftentimes be kind of the forgotten, top of the heap or whatever. But there's some of the people that need Him most in their, like if we're looking at an opportunity or situation where it's like, who is going to be in desperation? Who is going to be at a turning point of making a life-altering decision? Just look at celebrities, and it's like those guys are faced with everything on a silver platter, and then they realize that nothing is worth it. And then they're like, well, now what? And that makes me worry for them, because they have all the stuff that everybody else seems to be chasing right away. They see that it's worthless, and then what's the point? And I'm thinking that's a scary place to be, seeing that everything is worthless, not having anything else to chase for.
Well, that's just the way of I don't say it's the way of the world, but that's just a natural conclusion without God, is nihilism.
Yeah.
I think that is the end of logic. And then you get to existentialism, which is, its own beast. But nihilism is where every logical person goes.
Yeah.
And that's like
And everybody can get there. I just think that celebrities are on kind of a slick slope to getting there.
yeah.
Because it's kind of like all the theories you have can be solved in a shorter amount of time. Like, I think this could have some sort of eternal satisfaction because it's a foundation that does this, blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, that makes me worry a lot of the times. And it's really encouraging seeing a handful of celebrities and even internet people coming to know the Lord and seeing them online or in their public view just growing in sanctification. Like George Janko, I've mentioned before. He got saved, or at least the Lord really turned over a leaf in his life, showed him the necessity of a life walking in service with Him. And we've talked about Cliff, I can never say his last name right, Cliff Nettle or something like that. He's one of the guys that I talk with Jake and Ben about all the time, because he was instrumental in Ben's salvation.
Oh.
And watching all of his apologetics videos and stuff like that. And he was really instrumental in me growing in my understanding of the faith, because he would just answer frankly and talk like a person and answer questions in the most biblically sound, accurate way. And all that to say that he got to marry George and his wife, now wife, because he was encouraging George. He was like, hey, all this stuff is reserved for marriage. And it was weighing heavy on George. I believe the Spirit was leading him, and he got married the other day. And it was awesome to see. And this guy is plugged in all over the place. And that's just one of the ways that the Lord has been using a person, even in this area of life, in celebrity or fame, to just make His name great. I love it. It's super encouraging.
Yeah, I think that that idea, at least recently, has struck me as something like, I mean, our initial topic is why are we out here on Guam, or why do you think the Lord has us out here?
Yeah, what's
And,
Guam
like,
preparing us for?
Yeah, and like, I mean, it has prepared me to realize, that I can be used more than I probably could have, like more than I would ever have thought. Like, there's so many things that I do here that I don't think I would have had the heart to try. I think specifically of bus ministry as a uniquely exhaustive ministry where you have to devote 2 or so hours of your day to just getting kids from their house to church. So two on the long end, maybe only like an hour and a half on the normal end,
But then there's some weird stuff, flat tire and
Flat tire was a
all
great
the others.
experience. One of the boys I pick up, I don't think any of them are particularly wealthy. And so, in any way that I can help them, I try to help them. And like, one of the ways recently is the one guy will ask if we can go grab groceries. He's got his little WIC card or whatever it's called. Yeah. But he'll just go and, I'll help him get his groceries, and then I don't think props are for this show.
Maybe not this one specifically.
Yeah.
It's great, but let me put it right here.
That's perfect. But I think, is that exhaustive? Staying up late, helping him get his groceries,
right?
Helping him get him back to his house that he doesn't stay at, and then take him over to his cousins that he does stay at. Like, it is exhausting, but it's so rewarding to get to know these kids, know them by name, be a spiritual leader.
So obviously the Lord's preparing us for just further service in life. A lot of this has been just kind of coming to understand some of the things that we hear coming up as believers and being blessed to grow up in believing homes. We're actually kind of seeing firsthand in our youth still the Lord start to put some of the pieces together for a life where we can look back and say, He prepared us, sanctified us, gave us every tool that we needed, gave us the people and the places to build us into the sharpened tools that He desired to use for ministry. I pray that He continues to do that, and that I know that He'll continue to use anywhere that we're at, in any situation that we're at, or any situation that we're in. But Guam is something special. It's almost like a pressure cooker. There will be growth or you will die. Which is one of the main reasons I came out here. I knew that there was no way I couldn't grow closer to the Lord. He uses this place. And specifically Harvest. That's our home here. And I couldn't be happier.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I didn't come out here because I knew it was a pressure cooker, but it ended up being a pressure cooker. Maybe it's more of the thing that makes the diamonds out of carbon or whatever.
Yeah, a mountain.
Speaking of.
Ain't it nice?
It is beautiful.
I'm glad that you're out here.
I'm glad you're out here too. It's been a journey.
It ain't over yet.
10 years. Just kidding. We'll see.
Cut to 10 years later. I'm 36.
Oh, I don't want to be 37.
I think I am 36 in 10 years.
It's crazy. Is the lens cap still on there?
Oh, dude. Yeah. You said podcast.